Welcome back to the Aaron Jack Show, Part 2 with Juan Segura and Doing Good HQ, where you, the artist, can also be the philanthropist. Thank you so much for joining. There we go.
Hey,
Welcome back
hello.
to Part 2.
Oh, yeah,
So, we were just talking about how it would feel to walk into this exhibition.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to think that in a physical setup, I could tell a story better than just having my work online. I would say, like you could have people in a close experience where they cannot escape, and somehow make them have like a little journey or something like that. That's a way of thinking about it.
That the art, in fact, can be a journey.
Well, in a way, yes. I think art is talking about things that we don't have a roadmap in real life. Nobody, I think, was Ethan Hawke or some actor. He said once that whenever you have a heartbreak and your lover leaves you, and you find solace in poetry and in music and in movies, but nobody told you in the school how would you go through that. So somehow I think art speaks to this other part of us that is really emotional and has to do more with a journey than learning skills or stuff like that. So I think in that sense, yes, art can be a journey, definitely.
Now, I'm really curious about this aspect because it's grander than the emotion and grander than the logic, but we're discussing the journey of life, it seems, that art and poetry creation in of itself, the music, gives us something more to connect with in life.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think the clearest example is music. I don't know anybody that doesn't like music, and whenever somebody listens to a song that says something to that person, it's just transferred to another world, and you get emotions. I mean, it's like a drug. You get excited, sad, melancholic, flirty, whatever. I mean, it can really take you anywhere. And with music, it's really clear. But I think the rest of the arts maybe are not so instantaneous. But I think they have, in principle, the same effect.
And it seems like the idea of being able to create a show where people are immersed in a certain experiential journey has has an intrigue for you as a creative. That it's not just to see it on the screen. It's that aspect of how is it part of someone's journey.
Yeah, I mean, the great goal or my aspiration would be that somehow what I do has an impact on people. Um, I'm not, yeah, has an impact, and for me, it would be like an emotional impact that somehow connects with them or make them think about something else or see things in a perspective they didn't thought about, something like that. Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting thing as we go beyond ourselves and we see our work in a greater whole. And what does that look like to see the not just the star, but to see the constellation of stars, to see the work, but a constellation of work, and what is that greater story um, that you wish to explore with that as these as we go from these individual stars of pieces of work to the greater whole? How do you see yourself um, moving and forming and shaping within that greater system of constellations?
Um, I don't know. I don't know basically because I have a life to lead on, and I don't have that much time anymore. And yeah, I have many ideas, many things I would like to do, but time goes really quick. And I don't know. That's something I think about often now. I'm at the beginning of my 40s. I have kids, and I realized that life is gonna end sometime. And I look back, and I don't know how many projects I did and how many art pieces, but clock's ticking. There's no time for everything. So I feel like I need of narrow down and trying to take a path to do what I really want to do, and somehow I'm there trying to decipher what that is, and also combining it with making a living and raising kids and whatnot.
I mean, this sounds like something that so many of us can relate to as artists and creatives in the world. And, what do we face as limited beings and also wanting to create in the world? And I'm just curious, how do you go about your process of deciding which projects or which directions to go with, or what really gives you the drive to move the art making process along its journey?
Um, well, the fact is that a lot of what I do is connected to either commercial work or now NFT platforms and that crypto art world, and somehow you adapt to the medium you're working on. Either if you work for magazines or video or that client or that platform with that time and dimensions and all those constraints, they have an impact. And lately I'm trying to figure out a way of focusing more on what I really want to do, whatever that is, which that's an ongoing search. But yeah, I mean, that also time constraints are also important. But I somehow struggle with myself sometimes, just trying to get rid of everything and just trying to see what's really in the center of my brain that I want to do. And that's not an easy task to do, but
How do you do that with NFTs and crypto, and how do you consider that in this larger scheme as a as an artist, as a creative, and having that central focus that it's not just a side thing, but it's an aspect of the medium, it seems like?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, that NFTs are all of a sudden a medium onto themselves, and it's something to
Mm-hmm.
really consider as a medium, right? And all of a sudden it's a form, it's a technical form. And how do you balance that or incorporate that into the internal drive you have as an artist, as a creative, and wanting to see your work in certain ways?
Um, well, I do the same thing I've done with commercial work my whole career, which is uh, you have constraints and you adapt your work to the constraints, and that's more often than not beneficial because limit and struggles somehow have like a creative spark. Um, and so I do the same. Now with NFTs, you need to think whatever is the piece you do, you need to think that it's gonna be in a thumbnail, and it's going to be in the thumbnail war, fighting again for attention against a million other pieces and content online. So yeah, you got to think about having a perfect thumbnail, and then we're going to scale up nice details and nice composition all together, and then it's going to be in a square format, 16:9. So yeah, that's somehow a little bit it's a struggle sometimes, but you need to adapt to. I mean, output is the king. You need to adapt to the output somehow, otherwise nobody's going to see what you do.
Yeah, I'd be curious to understand a little bit more about how you see this. This what is it with the NFTs, and how do you adapt, and what you've learned over the course of doing these NFTs that has really impacted your creative workflow, and how do you view that within your larger creative context?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I really like about NFTs is your creative process is more independent. When you do commercial work, you can have a client telling you in the middle of the work, yeah, I want this thing green and I don't like this, make this quicker or whatever. And when you do NFTs, all these creative processes, you own it. You don't share it with nobody. Nobody's telling you what to do. And then people can buy the piece or not. But this creative process is kept independent, and that's something really, really that I like as an artist, to have this more freedom and be more isolated with nobody putting the finger on what I'm doing, basically.
I'm curious how you see this in terms of like this creative freedom and free from the client, because it seems like that's also like the aspect of fine arts that that then it's the strategic partners that pull the triggers, or the clients that the collectors are then pulling the triggers versus say the clients, or how do you see that moving forward in your NFT journey?
I think it's gonna be the same way traditional art. I mean, art has been related to money since forever, because people need to eat, and whoever has the money is saying what likes or not. And somehow, as an artist, you end up adapting it to it. That doesn't mean that you cannot do what you really like, even if you're moving in a collector's environment or whatever. I think in the future it's gonna play. I don't know. Maybe the one-to-one NFTs. They will have a smaller, longer life, and I don't know about all the FPFs or the 10K collections. I think that's more based on pure speculation. And some collections are really doing a really good branding, which can go beyond just the collection itself. But I think that more often than not, it's just really speculation without any value behind the hype and the community. So
This is very interesting. I'm very curious about how do you see that branding aspect within the kind of fine arts, and how do you see that playing with the with all of the graphics work that you do, and be playing behind the screen. Um, how does that play into this new freedom to create NFTs, and what have you seen?
I personally like the NFT space because it creates a new circuit, a new venue for showcasing your art. And of course, before NFTs, we couldn't sell digital art this way. So that's amazing. At the same time, as I told you, I'm starting to feel more inclined and more interested in having my art playing in a physical space. That can be maybe combined with NFTs. I've been to a couple of exhibitions of NFTs, and it's really appealing as well. So maybe there can be a combination of digital art, NFTs in a physical space. Meeting people in real life is really nice, and talking about art in real life is really nice. So maybe it can move into this direction. Crypto art can move more into this. Yeah, hopefully.
Now, I'm very curious about this phygital aspect as we bridge the physical digital divide within the arts, and how do we see the digital art moving into physical spaces as we interact beyond the screen, where we're interacting in physical life and then we're interacting in digital life, we're interacting in front of an audience, and then how are these different audiences playing into the work, and what is it that grabs you as you see your digital art moving into the physical plane and moving back and forth between these planes of existence within the viewer's eyes?
Um, I think having art in a physical space makes experience, and just seeing art online makes a really, really light experience, I would say. I mean, you can see it and you can enjoy it, but it's not the same that taking the time to go somewhere and seeing the art in a specific setup. And it's also, it comes back to people. Our world is basically people, and whenever you are in a room watching art with people, you can have different connections and more like solid connections than if you are just watching digital art in your computer at home. So I think in that regard makes a much more complete experience, definitely.
Now, I think this is an interesting idea as we talk about, we've come from this place of discussing what is it to look up at the stars, to understand the gods beyond ourselves, exist within ourselves, even as we observe, and then to go into physical spaces that we then become the creators of. How do you see that moving, that connection building and growing as people move between the stars and the constellations that exist from these larger, grander forces, but then to these created experiences that we've become the storytellers, the compilers of the experience?
I think that art or this exploration of something new or combination of elements that has never been combined before uh, can spark the imagination of the people building up the future, I would say. So same way people thought about flying like a bird and started to think, how do I make planes to fly? I think art can, in a way, inspire people to think beyond what's real or established and really move forward. Not only in a technical sense, but more into like interpersonal space and this kind of realm. Yeah.
The interpersonal space. I'm very curious as you see that, as your work is not just the thing that people see on their phones, but also it seems like you're asking to see it as an experiential work that people use to play as interpersonal connection and that connective
Yeah.
experience of people.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm creating art and doing my stuff, I really pour myself into it, and to me it means a lot, and I have a lot of feelings when I'm creating stuff, and I would like that people again get inspired. It's something that I cannot ask for. It needs to happen or not. It's the better I get doing what I do, the more people will be strike when they see my stuff. That's the aspiration that I have. Um, yeah, I would love that somehow what I do means something for the people, that they get inspired. Same way when you hear a song and maybe the lyrics were intended for something else, but you do your own meaning, and somehow this song puts you in a new way in your life. Um, Somehow, I would love that what I do, as it is inspiring for me, is inspiring for other people, basically.
So there's an aspect of inspiration that that you see. It seems like to me anyway, the aspect of something inspires you, then you're able to then create something that inspires someone else to maybe see an aspect of what you've observed in the greater universe.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, if that happens, that would be perfect. I mean, in the end, I think we are all just trying to communicate somehow and express ourselves. Some people that sit dancing, talking. Some filmmakers, they need to get 2 years into a movie production and spend like $50 million. So each its own, but I think in the end we are all trying to communicate and create some kind of connection with the people we have around.
What is it that you would currently like to communicate to the world that you that you would just like to communicate in this world?
Um, I think what we were discussing at the beginning, this finding existence itself as a really amazing thing, and try to peel off the layers of this daily life we have, and somehow get to the basics of what we're doing here, whatever it is. But you know, uh, trying to, yeah, just peel off the layers, and uh, be here, being conscious of the scale of things.
Can you talk a little bit about more about that in terms of being conscious of the scale and peeling off the layers? Like, what does this mean, and how can we as the audience better, or those who are listening right now, whenever now is, better understand and better try to observe that within ourselves and that beyond ourselves?
Well, if you take a look at all the content that you can see with your mobile phone, and you stop to think of the things you're seeing, what's really something that is really important, and that is something that can turn you into a happy person, or a not so happy person. And there's a lot of noise nowadays in the world, and I think it's worth to every now and then stop and think, okay, all this that I have around, that I get myself busy with, is that really something that I carry on with me in the next 20 years, or is just nothing? And then each person probably will find something else. But I mean, yeah.
So as we stop and consider what do we see beyond the screen, what experiences we walk into, what would you like to communicate? What would you like, how would you like people to stop and consider uh, this world as a whole? Like, what is it? How would you like the world to be more of, if you could, if if you if you could, if people would do as you said?
That's a huge question. That's a really out of it's maybe a crazy thought, but I have the feeling, although I love modern society and capitalism have great things, and probably we're living in the best time in history ever, because basically you can get cure of many diseases that you could not before and stuff like that. I think somehow we created a system to work with all the resources we have that is just revolving in itself, and somehow just getting busy with things that are not um, important. And I would love to see that all the resources we have of any type, they're really being used for the greater good of humanity and the world, and not to just make more numbers that we can exchange to make more numbers somehow. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I find this interesting as making, using these resources for the greater good. And what does that mean or look like to you? What is one way? Because I know there's many ways in the world, but what would maybe be some of the ways that you would like to see the resources be used in the world?
Well, I would like to see, since we have that many resources that are going everywhere. I would love to see that everybody is taking care, healthy in a health kind of way. You know, we have a lot of stuff to do, many things. So let's take care of people that is uh, ill, basically, and then let's try to, and I don't only mean physically but also mentally. Why don't we try to get everybody in a better level with the basics of health, physical and mental health? That's something that I would love to do, and that's something that I would love to do and that I would love to see, because I cannot do that. But yeah.
But I think what you can do is you're having us look at certain aspects of the human existence, and that is and that has us look at what you would like and speak and communicate. Um, and I think that's really interesting, is that your communication of this, of the greater whole of the universe. What is it within that observation communication? Like there's an aspect between the observation communication when there's decisions being made of a choice of how do you see this greater universe, from the being healthy physically, mentally, and seeing and peeling off these layers of the noise of society and connecting with each other on these greater stories, as you said, of between the gods and the sciences. What would you what would you like to see within this for society as a whole, as you create these experiences for people to interpersonally connect together with?
Um, I don't have the answers of how to make the world a better place. I basically don't. And I have wishful thinking. And beyond that, um, I would love that people, when they see what I do, they somehow get a glimpse of life without all these layers that are maybe necessary but not the best, and somehow they can come to a place where they can look at things in a more simple and real way somehow. That's a lot of what I want for my stuff. It's not nothing simple, but you can dream. So yeah.
Well, I'm here for you to dream. I think that's the
That's
thing.
what we're doing now.
Well, let's dream together as we look up at the stars, right?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Why not? And see, how do we as artists create the artwork and find the ways to observe out in the world and also within ourselves and interpersonally connect around these topics and issues, and as we look at these larger subject matters, what do we talk about? And I think that's interesting of what you say is you want people to interact around your work within these experiences that you create with your work, that it goes from the screen to the screen, beyond the screen. How do you see the screen playing? I know as we're wrapping this up in the next 5 minutes or so, but I'm just curious, how do you see this playing out in the larger scheme of things, or how would you like it to play out as we mix these NFTs with digital art, with the experiences and the physical life? What is it that you would like to see play out in the world of the interpersonal relationships?
Um, uh, I'm blank. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Like when you see people interact with your work behind the screen, and then you see them interact with the work with your work 8 meters by 8 meters, how do you see that interpersonal relationship between other people playing out, and how would you like to see that play out in the future as connection?
Yeah. As I told you, I would like of being able of telling a better story that can be that people can relate better to, and I think that physical space for that would be great. I would also need to evolve a little bit on my art. I mean, I have ideas, of course, but I would love to do that, yeah, and that people can have a little experience, and having some kind of emotional chapter, if I would say, yeah, that would be cool. I cannot hear you.
There we go. I'm
No,
back. The emotional chapter. I love this as we wrap up on this note of the emotional chapter with the work and other people having that emotional experience and getting to see beyond themselves. Now, as we wrap this up, I would like to ask you. I would like to first thank you. Thank you so much for joining
thank you
me
for
here
having me,
today.
Aaron. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for joining us whenever now is. And thank you to Doing Good, where you as the artist, us as the artists, as the creatives, can not only be the artists, but also be the philanthropists in this world. Now, I would like to ask you if you have anything that you would just like to share from your heart right now to the world as the whole world listens and shares. What do you have on your heart that you would like to share?
I would say on my phone active. I have something good to say. Let me. I don't know. Do what you think is right. I think it's the do what you like, what you think it's right, and yeah, just follow your heart. That Braveheart would say, the movie. So yeah, why not?
And do you have any last words for us before I do a little wrap up? What would you like to, any last words?
No, I think I said everything that I have. No, it's been a pleasure being here with you. It's been a really nice chat. I like to have those chats about cosmic events and painting stuff. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Then, See you soon, I guess.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you to everybody who's watching. I really appreciate you joining here on the Aaron Jack Show every week. These are recorded, so feel free to watch them again and again as you like. Thank you. Thank you. We've talked today about the cosmos, about seeing beyond ourselves, about seeing beyond ourselves as the artists, as the creatives, but also just as the human beings, and stripping away the layers of what this world is, the noise, and getting down to a basic level of humanity. And how do we interconnect and interrelate in this world? Today with Juan, we talked about so much about the stories, the gods, the human experience that we see within ourselves, that we create, that we share, finding what it is that we really want to communicate in the world, that we see, we observe. Where do we observe? Whether we observe with a pen or watching the ballet or a fight or just these different human emotions, the body. How is it that we explore and see? So thank you so much for watching and being here. What is it that sparks? How is it that we peel off? What is it that we see within ourselves as we look up into the stars? Thank you for watching the Aaron Jack Show, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.